So it's 5:30, time to start the Natrona County Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for November 19th, 2025. First thing on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please stand? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I'd like to start with introductions. My name's Hal Hutchinson. I'm the chairman. To my left is Chad McNutt, Commissioner Chad McNutt. He's the vice chairman. To my immediate right is Commissioner Kevin Christopherson. On around the circle is Commissioner Ken White. Continuing around the circle would be Ashley Smith, Deputy County Attorney. Next to her is Sabrina Kemper, is the Natrona County Development Director. And at the end is Shelby Trottier, the Planning Technician for Natrona County. And here we have Ray Schulte, my left. Also in attendance is Sean Gustafson. He is the contract planner for Natrona County. We got a small audience tonight, so I guess there's no need to talk about limiting time that you can speak or what have you. I would expect you to be concise and brief as you can be, and we'll move on. All right, so the first thing on the agenda is consideration of the October 14th, 2025 meeting minutes. They're pretty brief. You guys had a chance to take a look at those? Chair would entertain a motion for consideration of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes as prepared. Any discussion, any questions? Call the question. All in favor of approving the minutes as prepared signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, unanimous decision for approval. I don't know if any of you folks in the audience are here for the Tobin edition. I'm told that that is off the agenda for this evening. So hopefully you didn't make the ride all the way down here for that. Okay, so our first zoning consideration item is ZC 25-01, and that's a request by Luke Ginsbach on behalf of Philip Rail for a zone change from the urban residential zoning district to urban ag zoning district. The property is located at 4026 Southeast Wyoming Boulevard in the east half of the southeast quarter of the southeast quarter, section 21, township 33 north, range 79 west. And we have a parcel number in the agenda. So Madam Director, may we have a staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, if you remember correctly, this was tabled at the June meeting, so we will need you to untable this first.
Okay. Chair would entertain a motion to untable the ZC 25-01. Have a motion and a second. All in favor of that signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request by Ginsbach Construction for approval to change the zoning on southeast Wyoming Boulevard from urban residential to urban agriculture. We asked that you all table this back in June because at the time we had another applicant in that same area, the urban residential area, who was also seeking to change a parcel to urban agriculture. And so our thought was that if those areas, parcel owners got together, that they would all seek to change to urban agriculture. We learned at a meeting after that that the parcel owner who owns most of the property, between him and his family, did not seek to change any other parcels to urban agriculture. So with that, here is that parcel that you can see, the urban residential, urban mixed residential, suburban residential, mountain residential, and then the closest urban agriculture is about a mile away. If this one parcel were changed, it would create spot zoning, which is something in our regulation that is frowned upon. It's not necessarily against the regulations, but the commissioners do not like it. It's not something that we practice. It's not a good practice for us. So we would still today recommend denial of this application, as I mentioned, because that other property owner didn't seek to change any of their property at all. So the reason that we would also ask for denial of this is Chapter 5.06 zoning map amendment states that the purpose of this section is to provide standards for changing the boundaries of any zoning district or the zone classification of any parcel of land. The purpose is not to relieve particular hardships or confer special privileges or rights on any person, but to allow adjustments to the official zoning map in response to changing circumstances, to reflect changes in public policy, and to advance the general welfare of the county. It is our opinion that this would allow special privileges to that one parcel of land that would not be allowed on the surrounding parcels. And I will stand for any questions.
Trailer house is a little over there. So, I don't know, I just personally don't see wrong with building just a barn. So is there like a variance that he could apply for instead of a big zone change or something? Or is this the only way that they're gonna be able to just build a barn?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Christopherson, excuse me. The regulation for this particular area, the zoning says that he can build the barn, but he has to submit plans with that building permit to build the residential structure within 5 years of building the barn. So there has to be residential plans in this zoning resolution or in the permit. That's part of urban residential area. So that's why he wanted to apply for the urban agriculture, because that would change that, where he could have that barn and never build a residential structure. I'm not sure that he wants to live there. I haven't spoken with him about this, so maybe that's why. Maybe that's not the plan. It is a difficult area. I know the topography over there is difficult for a lot of reasons in building and thinking that this is going to be a residential area. Urban residential has a minimum lot size of 5 acres. So I suspect that when this was zoned this way, which I think it has been for a while, that it was anticipated that it would be more residential rather than 40 or 20 acre lots or even smaller acre lots. And they're not smaller at this time. I don't know if that's something that they will do in the future or not. I believe this area is also part of the Casper growth boundary. So Casper could have, thoughts of their own on what they might want that growth boundary to be.
So, across the road is the mountain residential. I know there's restrictions in that too. Does it have the same restrictions as currently on that, or would you be able to build a barn? It wouldn't be an island if it was mountain.
Mr. Chairman, and that would, they do have the same restrictions. Mountain Residential does have the same residential restriction.
Could he apply for a variance to the zone, or is that something that's not? I don't know, I'm just new here, so.
He,
He owns 17 acres of agricultural or rural property, and it's not surrounded by any kind of subdivision or a house. I personally,
the problem with a variance is he's got to prove a hardship. And so he's got to prove that he has a hardship that is preventing him from using his land. And that would be his decision. The other thing about a hardship or a variance would be there's a fee to that, and it's a non-refundable fee. And so same as a zoning zoning amendment, if he pays this fee and then it's denied, he's out that amount. It's his decision ultimately on which route he'd want to go.
I think we should do. I just don't see the harm.
Any other questions for staff?
Is the applicant here tonight? Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman, no.
I think he came twice, didn't he? Mr. Gensbach came a couple times.
He did,
visit with
yes.
us. So, and as I understand, I think we had discussion on this before, that this has kind of been hanging out there for a few months. And you just wanted to come to a decision one way or the other, so it wasn't continuing to be an outlier.
Correct. And Mr. Chairman, after the commissioners did deny the zone change for the other property owner, the contractor did pull the building permit. So they no longer have an active building permit that they were seeking for this project.
Okay, any other questions? And I understand we don't have the applicant here tonight, but we still need to have a public hearing. Okay, we're ready to move into public hearing. So I'd like to call to order a public hearing for consideration of zone change 25-01. That is request by Luke Gensbach on behalf of Philip Braille for a zone change from urban residential to urban agriculture for the property at 4026 Southeast Wyoming Boulevard, just outside the Casper city limits. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the application, would you please come forward? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the application, please come forward. Seeing none, anyone in the audience wishing to speak in opposition to the application, would you please come forward? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing none, this is to close the public hearing for zone change 25-01. Gentlemen, any discussion?
I just don't see the problem. 17-acre piece made up of the barn. Property tax revenue and whatnot.
Mr. Chairman, one of the problems I see with this So all the area around it is zoned urban residential. So if I owned a parcel next to it, thinking I was in an urban residential area, and one piece became an urban ag, that certainly could impact my property. So that would be a concern I would have. And obviously, there's nothing built real close to it at the moment, but it would impact the neighbors because their land currently is in urban residential, and now you're adjoined to a piece of property that's zoned different than everything else. I mean, the idea of putting a barn out there, I agree, is probably not that big a deal, but it could be a big deal to the neighbor. And if you have a piece of property and everything's zoned a certain way, you kind of would expect it to stay that way. Unless there's extenuating circumstances that would warrant doing it differently, and I'm not sure I see that. So I'm going to oppose the change.
Any further discussion?
So I assume that the suburban residential has the same restriction.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Christopherson, yes, that's correct, but there, it's a little bit more of a restriction. The minimum lot size is 2 acres in suburban residential, where the urban residential is 5.
Here's what I think he's probably still gonna try to build a shelter for his animals. And he could probably build one that's, doesn't need a building permit because
That is correct. That is also correct.
well, I just think the way people think, because I've been through this myself many times, and you're just like, what were they thinking? But yeah. I'm gonna support this, but one vote's not gonna get it done.
And Chairman, I just want to point out that, you know, obviously this would create a spot zone, which obviously would go against, our regs. Additionally, you know, I would caution on setting the precedence, of course, because if we allow spot zone here, then people are going to start expecting it. So that would be a potential harm, say, right? Is if we just completely start ignoring the zoning regs that we have in place right now. And so I just did want to point that out real quick.
Any further discussion? Chair would entertain a motion for consideration of this zone change application.
I would make a motion to consider it.
There is wording that staff has prepared on H4.
I'm gonna make a motion to pass this recommendation to the Board of County.
Okay,
And Commissioner, we have to have that language, just to make it clear for the record purposes.
Considering all relevant factors, including but not limited to those set forth in the 2022 zoning resolutions of Natrona County. Well, I don't find that the variance meets general standards. I guess I find that the variance meets general standards required. On that basis, I move to approve CC 25-01 with all staff findings of fact incorporated by reference.
okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Do we have a second? believe your motion fails for lack of a second.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to deny ZC 25-01 with the do not pass recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners, finding the variance does not meet general standards required for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to deny. Any discussion, further discussion? I have to say that I follow Mr. Christopherson's concern, and, you know, when these things are put together, somebody sees a road and they said, you know, that'd be a great place for urban ag or a great place for urban residential, just based on where the road happens to be, without having the knowledge necessary for, makes a lot of sense that you'd want to build a barn there. Otherwise, it's just open property that you have limited use for. It's just unfortunate, I think. So. All right, any other discussion? All in favor of the motion to deny ZC 25-01 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
So my count is 4 in favor, 1 opposed. All right. Can we move on?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right, next on the agenda is MS 25-02, the Christensen edition. That's a major subdivision request made by Dan Christensen to vacate and replat Lot 1 of the Meadow Acres Number 4 simple subdivision, creating 2 separate 5-acre tracts. The property is located approximately 12 miles east of Casper, with 2 potential access roads, Happy Glen Lane and Silver Sage Lane. Pending approval, the property owner wishes to sell the 2 lots for residential use. The property is currently zoned rural residential, and there's a parcel number. So, Madam Director, may we have a staff report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Major subdivision request made by Dan Christensen, as the chairman pointed out. This is rural residential, which has a minimum of 5-acre lots. It is currently vacant residential property. The surrounding properties are all zoned rural residential as well. In your packet, it listed out in Chapter 4, Section 5, the criteria for approval for a major subdivision. The planning office received the following comments. We reached out to, let me just back up, we reached out to Road and Bridge Fire District, GIS Mapping Surveyor Records, and the Conservation District. The only comment we received back was from the Health Department, with them stating the soils appear to be sandier per the USDA web soil survey, which could lead to faster percolation rates. A fast percolation rate could require a professionally engineer-designed system, but the nearest neighboring systems appear to be conventional designs, making the engineered design less likely. Septic systems will need to maintain setbacks from neighboring wells, which we do not have locations for. There is a dry creek bed running through the north end of both proposed lots, and septic should be installed at least 50 feet from the bed. Septic placement is likely possible on both lots, but cannot be guaranteed on any lot. Septic system approval will be contingent upon placement, a silt trench, percolation test, and application packet, which is pretty standard for health department and septic systems. We sent notices to 19 surrounding neighbors, and as of the date of this report, we have not received any written comments. The access is off of Happy Glen and Silver Sage, and this shows access easements for utilities and access. And then we also wanted to show a flood plain, as towards the top of the screen is where the North Platte River is above that. So it does have some 100-year and 500-year flood zone within the area. And here's a topographic view. And then for the staff recommendations, we find the application to be complete and in compliance with both zoning and subdivision codes and recommend a do pass recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. We propose that if you all enter a motion and vote to recommend approval or denial of the requested Christensen addition major subdivision, and should you vote to approve the requested subdivision, we have no additional conditions for this project. And we recommend that the motion incorporate all findings of fact set forth. And the applicant is in the audience, should you have any questions for the applicant.
Thank you. Questions for staff? Thank you, Sabrina. Any general discussion before we move into public hearing? All right. So this is to call to order the public hearing for consideration of major subdivision 25-02. That's the Christensen addition. Replat of Lot 1 of Meadow Acres number 4 simple subdivision, creating 2 separate 5-acre lots. Would the applicant like to come forward and fill us in on things we might need to know?
Dan Christensen, thank you for having me. Don't really know that I can add any more to that.
Could we get you to give your name and address, please?
Dan Christensen at 800 Silver Sage Lane in Evansville, Wyoming. Maybe the only other thing I would add is to make sure anybody that's here to maybe disagree, we did put an easement on the top side of that, so whoever were to buy those parcels, they'd have an easement to go from on the top side of that to hook into onto Silver Sage to Foxborough, so they wouldn't be using the whole Foxborough area in front.
Could we get the plat on? Can you show us what where you're talking about, please?
Sure. So it's that dotted right. Nope. And come down. Yeah, that's Silver Sage, and then on the top side of that, there's an easement, a 30-foot easement that's right in front. Can you see that?
So are we looking at the revised plat, or are you telling us something that's changed since? So I did see where, I believe WLC reviewed the plat prepared by CEPI here. Does that sound right, Shelby? Okay.
That's the only thing I would add. on
Okay.
that, unless you guys have any questions for me.
So I would ask you to stand there for just a moment, because we're going to ask for anybody in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the application to come forward.
Okay.
I suspect you'd want to do that.
I'll use my wife as well.
Certainly.
Okay, great.
So, seeing you in favor, anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the application, would you please come forward?
I speak in favor. I'm Holly Christensen, 800 Silver Sage.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the application? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the application? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in opposition to the application for the major subdivision 25-02? Anyone wishing to, yes, sir.
My name is Mike Steele. I live at 13360 East Highway 2026, which would be just to the south of Foxborough Lane or Foxborough Trail. So I'll point a couple of different concerns that I have. They're showing a new easement, which would be to the south of Foxborough Trail, the green lines that you just had up. Sorry. So that will be a brand new easement across there. And my question is, are you building a new road, or do you plan on utilizing Foxborough Trail, which is not a public access, to lot number 1 that's up for discussion? So that is not a public road, and he does not have an easement for Foxborough Trail to use access for lot 1. He has it for, if you could go to the other slide, to the north where he has the trailers, and I can't read that from this distance. Is it a trailer park? I'm not sure how to. Okay. So there's multiple residents on that piece of property. And then on lot number 2, I'm not sure how many residences are on that property at this time. You have your new house, the house that was there before. So I think that's already out of zoning allowance, isn't it, what we just said? 1 house per 5 acre. He's got 3 houses on 10 acres. I think we're out of zoning compliance on that to start with. Okay, so my point is, there's this tremendous amount of traffic that goes over Foxborough Trail that is, once again, is not a public road. I deal with all the traffic going in and out of there. Dan does a adequate job of trying to maintain access to that, but it's a dirt road. It's not maintained by the county. There's no homeowners association that deals with it. There's terrible dust issues back there. You can't control the speed. You can't control the hours. I mean, obviously you can't control the hours, but it's all night, hours of the night going back to this trailer houses. So back there already, there's 5 houses that are served there, as well as the 2 that you see what is in here as Ross 1 and 2, which technically don't have an easement across Foxborough Trail either, which is why they're proposing this 30-foot easement, and they issued an easement, which was part of Exhibit A. They did that to get around not having access through Foxborough Trail. So we went through this about 5 years ago when the proposal was to do a change of use permit to put a, not sure what the term was, what were you using it for, a wedding venue? So that was the predecessor to Dan, but they were going to put a wedding venue back on lot number 2. That was disapproved. And that's when we found out that there isn't an easement across what he is proposing as lot number 1. So I guess my concern is the additional traffic. And what I was asked when they tried to do the change of use previously, they wanted me to make that a public road. And I did not want to make it a public road because I can't control the traffic back there.
So excuse me, you're talking about Foxborough Trail?
Foxborough Trail.
Okay.
So I guess my concern, and the reason I would disagree with this or ask for this to be disapproved, is if you're going to run more traffic down Foxborough Trail, down Happy Glen to get access to these 2 parcels, I would be opposed to that just due to the traffic consideration. And then second thing is, I would want it stipulated, and I'd ask that the board would stipulate that they would install a new road in the 30-foot easement for use for access as they have proposed. And that would be the green lanes. The other consideration that the east lot, which is up against Happy Glen Road, I have no issues if that access was given only to Happy Glen Road and not Foxborough Trail. The west location, I'm not sure how they will gain access. Either they're going to have to come through the other 5 acres or install that 30-foot easement and make it a travelable road. And if you go back to the topography of this, you'll see that there are several mature trees. And you can see the drainage ditch that will make it very difficult where they have their.
That's a lot of information.
Sorry, yeah.
Oh,
It's very convoluted. I found it on the extent, I think you had east and west mixed up. I think the west is next to
The west is on the left there.
yeah.
Yeah.
By the half. But,
Yeah, I'm sorry, what is Silver Sage? So access from Silver Sage to the east lot. I'm not sure where the access for the west lot would be to Happy Glen.
I was just trying to look at ownership and everything, and you say it's not a public road, so there's no public easement through there at all.
There is not.
It's just on,
County commissioners requested one about 5 years ago and it did not get approved.
looks like Michael Steele owns that.
Yes, that's me.
so I see on the plat where there's a 50-foot right-of-way, Foxborough Trail.
Yep.
That's not a dedicated road, it's just a
not
private access easement? Is that what it is?
I'm not really sure how we want to classify that. It's not a public road. It's not a subdivision road. It is easements for people that live back in lot 2 to the north. I'm not sure. Be the trailer houses, and I think there's 3 or 4 other residences. And as it's posted currently, Happy Glen is a private road. And I'm not sure if you posted that or if that was done with the previous owner. But it's a private road. And I consider, as the owner of the railroad easement, Foxborough Trail is a private road with a number of easements for access.
So
but
Foxborough
not
Trail's
lot-
an old railroad?
Yeah. But lot number 1 does not have access off Foxborough Trail.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Steele? I think we're going to ask staff here what background information they have on public access.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Let us finish the public hearing and then we'll jump into. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in opposition to the application for major subdivision 25-02? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? So should we have I guess we can have the discussion after the public hearing. So this is to end public hearing for MS 25-02. Madam Director, we had quite a bit of information passed our way. I think it boils down to public access, private access easements. What can you tell us about that information?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, this is always a point of contention in our office because there is a lot of confusion on roads in Natrona County, and I suspect that that is the case across the state. I am currently in a GIS for urban planning class where my final project has to do with roads, private and public access, and state statutes because I chose that topic because of this. This is one of those projects, but we have this question at least 3 or 4 times in our office a week. Who owns what? Who has access to what? A lot of areas don't say. Some subdivisions dedicate the roads to the public. Some of them dedicate them to the private landowners. And some have nothing and no information whatsoever. So with that being said, state statute also says that you cannot landlock property. If there is an access to a property, those owners do have to have access to that property. It appears that the access to the lots, and I'm not familiar which one is 1 and 2. Okay, I see. It appears on the site plan that access to 1 is across lot 2 through would be like from, I believe, 2026 or Yellowstone. I don't know exactly what it's called at that area. Highway 20. Okay, my apologies. Highway 20 to Foxborough. Well, there's another road, and then to Foxborough, and then to Silver Sage, and then it would go across Lot 2 to Lot 1. That's what was proposed on this. Mr. Steele did come and talk to us about this because he didn't want that traffic down there, and this was revised to hopefully mitigate that. I don't know if that did. Doesn't sound like it did, but that was our understanding because roads, we have not gotten to the bottom of them yet, but we're getting closer.
So I got flags being raised all over the place in my head over this. Actually, I want a piece of property, not even in Wyoming, where you can't landlock a property, but that doesn't mean somebody has to give you access for free.
Correct.
Maybe that's being taken for granted or taken for granted that somebody's going to give somebody access. Access can be pricey. So, I'm also a little troubled. I don't have a bigger map to see what's private, I'm assuming you guys have looked at that and traced that all the way to 2026 to see that there's a dedicated public access, or do we want access just for lots 1 and 2 here?
Mr. Chairman, there are other houses in the area, if we could zoom out on this, that have access, that there are roads that can travel from one place to another. Who owns those roads is anyone's guess in some of
I
this
guess I
area.
looked at Foxborough Trail and I just assumed that public had access to it, but I'm hearing that's not the case.
That could not be the case. It could be that you and I can't travel down there because we don't own property, but those who do own property down there can travel down those roads.
In a hurry. We
It
need to
does.
talk about guests and whatever else.
That would be my understanding, and maybe we can get legal to chime in on this, that they would have access because then they would essentially own property down there. So like, if you bought that lot, you would have access to there, but unless you invite me over, I can't come over there because I don't own property over there. So I'm the public, but you're the private who has access.
Just clarify, what's being proposed here is if somebody bought, say, lot 1, they'd be coming in on Foxborough Trail from the east, I suppose. They would turn down Silver Sage and then get on that easement road and cross from lot 2 to lot 1, and then that's how they would get, that's the
That's my
scenario.
understanding.
Okay, I just want to make sure it was right in my head. Okay.
Go through that again, please, Chad.
So the owner, whoever's trying to get access to, say, to lot 1, would come in on Foxborough Trail from the east. They would turn right on Silver Sage and then get on that 30-foot easement from lot 2 over to lot 1. And that's how they would access that lot. Sort of bypass that portion of the road of Foxborough Trail that's in front of your property. Is that right, Mr. Steele? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. White, generally, guests and friends are invited. If I show up at your house unannounced, you can say, no, I don't want you there because you didn't invite me. Maybe I want to surprise you because we're friends. But essentially, you didn't invite me. So I don't have permission to be there. But guests and friends who are invited have been now given permission to travel that road.
So what about,
It would be the same. That scenario would be the same for both lots because of that easement and what Mr. McNutt just asked.
Is there a problem with getting a legal opinion on this and access?
sorry, that's kind of what Shelby and I is kind of pulling up on the map right now as we're trying to figure this out. We seem to be missing some documents, so I might have to do a deep dive into some archiving a little bit, or get Nancy's help a little, because Foxborough Trail, it looks like there's easement to, so these people here, I'm short, they have an easement, and then these people here also have easement. So I'm trying to find, I don't have a plat for this parcel and the parcel above it. There should be a plat for those two when it got divided, it looks like. And our system right now, we can't find it. So we're trying to piece this together.
Sounds to me like we need to table this.
Give you guys some time to do some.
That might be the best thing right now with that access part, because if there's an easement on, that side and that side, it wouldn't necessarily make sense, right, for there to be like that gap, right, for that parcel as it is. So that's what I need to find that out.
So Mr. Steele, as I understand it, might have, if he wants, he could go out there and put a fence across what now is Foxborough Trail and force use of that 30-foot easement. But so there's UPS, FedEx, whatever. Are they going to know how to access these properties? Probably not. Friends and foes and everything else. So
Sir, I'm not sure I follow your question. Yep. That is correct, off Foxborough Trail. Yes, as well, yep. That's correct. And he doesn't need an easement from me. He's got a 30-foot easement that he is proposing to the south of Foxborough, or to the north of Foxborough Trail, which is the green area, which does me no good because I still have the additional traffic back there. And now we have two parallel roads side by side, double the dirt, two different roads to maintain. And you're absolutely right, Mr. Commissioner, that I can put a 6-foot or a 7-foot fence by county code in between Foxborough Trail and his proposed 30-foot easement, and I can block the noise and the traffic and some of that. But to me, it seems ridiculous. I'm willing to concede that if he would move his easement further to the north along the drainage so he'd have access off Silver Sage, and if I could point to that to you, I guess over here. Somewhere in this area, then I wouldn't have all the traffic that's coming down here by my property.
So your house is down to the,
Yeah, I'm to the north.
and there's kind of a road, somebody.
you're to the south or to the north? You're
I'm
down?
to the south, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. So my point is just use the same access he already uses for his own entrance. Instead of opposing my situation and putting more traffic on a road that isn't well maintained, and I get dusted out every day. I had to put up a 6-foot privacy fence just to eliminate some of the traffic. And then on the other hand of that, he's, and I'm not sure that it's you, Dan, but I believe there is a fishing company that uses access to the river back there. Yeah, so he's commercialized the use of Foxborough Trail, which is an easement for ingress and egress, but now he's commercialized it to Crazy Rainbow, or one of the fishing, well, several. I mean, in the fall, there's 20, 30 boats going in and out of there all the time. So the traffic is the issue that I'm trying to get across, is move it to the north, put it over on his property. The houses can be on the south side and the road can be on the north side. You can still get from Silver Sage over to Happy Glen. Use your property. Don't try to use right up against mine.
So the other question I would have is the greenhouse, the green roof, and the one to the left, they have access to their properties, but that doesn't necessarily give access to proposed lots 1 and 2.
Well, and if you could zoom out on this picture you have here. So where the green barn is, that is Nick and Teresa Talmadge. They built a brand new house that I'm sure the county approved. And the access that they put to the house, they don't have an easement either. They have an easement to their barn, but it's 2 separate parcels. And I haven't raised a stink about that, but because it doesn't affect me dirt-wise. So their house is to the east of where you see the green roof.
Chairman,
Yes.
so we finally found like I said, the plat that we were Shelby and I was looking for this parcel and then the one above it. I think we're gonna have to do a deeper dive because I don't know if this plat is wrong. I have a sneaky suspicion that it might be, because when I look at essentially like the dedication part of this, the certificate of dedication on this plat, it states all roads and streets as shown herein, which Foxborough's on this, have been previously dedicated to the use of the public. This is the first plat that I've seen that language. So I think to answer your guys' questions concerning access stuff, we're gonna have to go pretty far back into our archives a little bit to see what's going on with this, because I'm having contradictory kind of information now on these plats.
Okay, so that's one issue. The other issue that I identify, me personally, is that we used to have language that major subdivisions had to, I don't know where this went. They had to go through the process of an improvement service district. And one of the big reasons for that was for these road issues that we're hearing about here tonight. It's like, why should Mr. Steele have to keep up with the road when the neighbors are using it perhaps more than the property owner? So I'd like to know that as well. Yes, sir.
2 other points, I guess. There's no way for me to police this road. I mean, I can't call the sheriffs every time somebody's zooming down there 40 mile an hour. I leave the potholes big. I'm not going to maintain it because that's the only way to slow them down. I thought about putting speed bumps in. You know, I can put gates on it. I can do all sorts of things. And I'm not willing to go to that distance. I think I can be somewhat amenable to other solutions. So that's the first point. The second point is back to the emphasis of Silver Sage. I think it's the best access for them. It minimizes traffic down Foxborough in front of the 2 residents at Happy Glen. And the only one it really affects is the 2 lots that Mr. Christensen is proposing and the barn. And I think I was told one of our previous conversations with the Planning Commission that you have to have a residence on where the green barn is. There has to be a primary residence there, and there is not. And so there may be some other code enforcement issues out there.
So, Chairman, as we're looking at some of this stuff, I would like to point one thing out. On the documents that we've pulled up, it looks like there's already some easements in place. So this wouldn't necessarily change it. So, and I'll try to explain. So this here, what they show as easement here, it's already in place today.
Foxborough Trail.
Not on Foxborough Trail, not here. It's literally within their bounds.
Okay.
So that is already there. This is not creating a new one. There's also actually already an easement, kind of where this road already is, there. And there's also one over there on Silver. So there is a already in place access easements. Honestly, this wouldn't actually be changing those. This actually just shows the already existing easements that we actually have documentation for. Just so you all know.
So, I'll speak from chairman's deal. I'm a little disappointed that we show up and have to try to hash this out in front of the board meeting. I think this should be tabled and brought back to us when it's in good order.
I would make a motion to table this.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for tabling. Any discussion? I guess you can have discussion. All in favor of tabling signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Sorry, folks. So we can't give when we say we're tabling, should we also table to a specific date or leave it open?
Chairman, that's up to you guys. You can choose to table it till the next meet, you can table it for, I guess, 1 month. You can table it for 2 months. You can leave it open-ended and just have it tabled until staff finds whatever. I would ask that there be some, I guess, more direction from you guys. If there's something that you guys want us to look at, or do like a memo for you guys or something, whatever you guys want from us. I would ask for staff direction a little bit.
I, for one, think we need a bigger picture. We need staff to verify that there's public access, not private or preferred access or best friends or not friends or whatever, so that folks can get, if there's a major subdivision and a replat, that there's public access all the way from 2026 into here. And then I'd also like to see where this improvement of service district issue fits in with who's responsible for keeping up with the roads. That's just going to be a big fight.
And Mr. Chairman, according to so for the ISD, it's not feasible to have these 2 lots pay for everybody else that's there. And everybody else has already been established, so unless everybody's gonna pay that uses that road, it's not feasible to do that with these 2 lots.
So maybe it needs to be bigger, or I think it needs to be worked out who's gonna take care of the road that gets into a new subdivision with effectively double the traffic.
I'll add that to my schoolwork.
South end of your lot. You shouldn't be using Foxborough Trail. So you're using a road you don't have the authorization, as far as I'm concerned.
So my family's all on that property back. That's the
Okay. Okay, back to the tabling. What's the commission's preference there?
I will table it just for, the amount of time it takes to actually, figure out what the easement situation is there with the right to the public.
And
So that's an open-ended,
yes,
however long that takes.
yes, so you guys will be tabling it until we bring it back to you guys, with the information that you guys are requesting. I will state too, I have a memo that I've done for our other commission, for the BOCC, that explains the differences in roads, public, private, all that kind of stuff. I was just telling Shelby, we'll send it all to you guys, because it does get a little complicated. I know this is something that we've been talking at BOCC as well, because there's different types of roads that we classify. And just to get you guys a little bit under, maybe more background and more kind of information on that. So I will get you guys that
Okay.
here this week.
Yeah, it would be good to know if the zoning change, is it contingent on this issue being worked out, which is a little bit separate, because there is a way to get to these lots through that easement. So is our decision contingent on the issue between the 2 parties here being worked out? And I don't know that it necessarily is, but it would be good to know that answer.
Mr. Chairman, one more request of staff. So when you inform us about access to the various roads, can you track that back to, is it Highway 20 that everybody's coming off of? Because it looks like Spear Avenue or something like that. I can't quite see it, but I'd want to know where the easements for all of those roads are back to to the Highway 20 that people would logically use. That would help me. Thank you.
Anything else on MS 25-02? Seeing none, we're moving on. Next item, it's VC 25-03, that's Rattlesnake. Thank you, folks. BC 25-03 Rattlesnake Bend Tower. That's a variance request made by Rocky Mountain Towers for setback requirements on a cell tower, which is a 2-to-1 height ratio. The tower will be located north of Highway 220, approximately 37 miles southwest of Casper. Madam Director, may we have a staff report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, the request is by Rocky Mountain Towers for approval of a variance regarding setback requirements to construct a 300-foot cellular communications tower. The request is to set the tower 100 feet from the existing property lines rather than the 2022 zoning resolution requirement of 600 feet. The parcel contains approximately 41 acres in the Ranching, Agriculture, and Mining District. So this is out Highway 220 between Alcova and Pathfinder, a little bit closer to Pathfinder than Alcova. The surrounding zoning is all RAM. The land use is agriculture. The surrounding land is BLM and state land. There are variance standards and criteria approval that were in your packet. The staff findings in the case of VC 25-03, request for a zoning variance, a tower variance. The lot size is 41 acres. Applicant has chosen this parcel in RAM due to its distance from other cellular towers in the area to provide coverage in an area not already serviced by cell reception. Some of the requirements for the application are the tower location and co-locating equipment on other towers. The applicant was not able to identify any county-owned property within this area where a cellular tower could be constructed, which is the preferred area for construction of a tower. And due to no other towers being located within the area, co-location of equipment was not an option. The height of the tower, the applicant has stated that due to the proximity of the tower along the highway, maximum height is needed to provide coverage along the undeveloped swath of grazing land. The appearance in our regulations, it asks to camouflage the tower. The applicant has stated that the tower is impossible to camouflage. However, there are multiple power lines, both lattice and wood, in the area. The tower will be made of non-reflective steel and is over 7 miles from the nearest community. Here's a picture of what the tower would look like, a view from the east and a view from the west. For security, the ground equipment will be surrounded by a solid 6-foot high fenced area, and equipment will be set back 600 feet from the highway. For signage, the RF safety document states that notice guidelines and site info signs will be located on the access gate. For setbacks, the 2022 zoning resolution requires all towers to be set back a minimum of the height of the tower plus 100% from any rights-of-way or roads, which would be 600 feet in this case. The resolution also states that BOCC may grant a variance from this setback requirement if the applicant can provide structural drawings and plans signed by a licensed engineer in the state of Wyoming that certifies the use of breakpoint technology, and or that if the tower collapses, relief from the standard setback requirements would not pose a threat to the health and safety of adjacent property owners. The applicant is requesting this variance for setbacks due to the submitted and Wyoming engineer certified breakpoint technology, which will fall within 100-foot radius of itself. The request is for 100 feet setback from the north parcel boundary and 100-foot setback from the west parcel boundary, which I'll go back to the green dot on this. That is approximately 100 to the north and 100 to the west is where the green dot is. Other setbacks are 300 feet from the 3,000 feet from the east boundary and 416 feet from the south boundary. And the nearest structure is 3/4 of a mile away. And this also, that's from the property boundary. The 416 feet is from the south property boundary, not the road. So that's an additional distance away from the roadway. Access road, the plans submitted show a 12-foot wide gravel access road into the fenced area with a barbed wire fence access gate. There's also a 12-foot wide double access gate into the tower fenced area where the cabinets and tower will be located. The future co-location of equipment, the applicant is in the business of working with multiple cellular carriers and is open to communication with additional carriers. Future locations of equipment are noted on the site plan. FAA lighting and approval, the applicant has stated that it will be lit in accordance with FAA requirements at this location. And staff sent the plans and asked for comments from Road and Bridge, County Fire, Natrona County, the Casper-Natrona County International Airport, and YDOT, who all had no concerns with this tower or its location. For public comment, as of the date of this report, staff has not received any written comments. It was a bit difficult to find anyone within a 1,000-foot radius of this area, but we did reach out to the state, who asked a couple questions and provided no comments. So staff recommendation, staff finds the application for variance complete and that the request is in compliance with items 1 through 7 of the approval criteria as shown above, with all items in conformance with the current zoning resolution and all additional conditions met. Staff finds VC 25-03 to be incomplete and to be complete and in compliance and acceptable. Should the Planning and Zone Commission vote to approve the requested variance, staff has no additional conditions for this project. Staff also recommends that the motion incorporate by reference all findings of fact set forth. The applicant is in the audience, and also our engineer Sean has worked with us on this project. It was a complete tower, not just a modification. It's a brand new tower, so I'm sure both of them can answer any questions that I can pass along to them.
Questions for staff? So I have one. You mentioned YDOT. I couldn't find YDOT commenting on anything. I would think you said 2 to 1, 100 feet high, 2 to 1, 600 feet, but you said it's 417 feet to the south, and they said it was okay, but I don't see anything in here that says that's okay.
They didn't have any concerns.
How do you know?
Mr. Chairman, YDOT said, thank you for reaching out. We have issued a temporary access permit to accommodate this work. I have spoken with our maintenance folks. They have no concerns. Please let me know if you have any other questions.
So that sounds like that's access.
That is, they have the access. So this property already has the access with the barbed wire fence. There's a barbed wire gate.
I think it'd be nice to have a piece of property, a piece of paper from YDOT saying, we approve the location with respect to their right of way. Sean, am I missing something here? An email what? Okay. It's buried in there. Another question, is this a guide tower or is this a freestanding tower? Okay. Any other questions for staff?
Yeah, the adjoining parcels, are they part of the grazing association? They're different landowners altogether.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. McNutt, they're BLM and state.
So I'm hearing staff say, I believe our regulations are 100. You have to have, whatever the tower height, 300 feet plus 10%, 330 feet, you should have that much clearance between the tower and the property line. But you're telling us that you have this special design that an engineer has signed off on that says only the top 100 feet is going to fall off if there is a problem.
Mr. Chairman, it's called a breakpoint technology, and I will definitely let our engineer explain this better, but it falls within 100 feet. So the whole tower would fall within 100 feet. And our separate requirements are very restrictive. Industry standard is not a double setback. So industry standard would be like 330 feet. If the tower is 300, it'd be like 1.1.
What is 100 feet between the tower and the west boundary?
Correct. That's the request. West and north.
And Chairman, I would note too that this is one of the things that I guess we are changing on the zoning resolution that you guys will be discussing. Next, we actually will be changing those setbacks. So this would actually be conforming with the ones that we will be passing. Obviously, it's not conforming with the current ones, but it would, with the new zones. Just food for thought for you guys.
Can I just ask one more question, Mr. Chairman? When we're thinking about this as a variance, and I would imagine one of the reasons we would grant this instead of considering this like a special consideration for one person or one group would be that because of the importance of the cell signal or the gap in the cell signals because of emergency. So I just want to make sure that's the rationale here for granting the variance. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, the applicant can speak better to that. So I'll defer to them. We discussed that prior to the meeting starting on why they chose this location.
Anything else for staff? Thank you, Sabrina. Would the applicant like to come forward and fill us in on details that we need to know about?
My name is Shelley Neese, and I'm the owner of Rocky Mountain Towers. Rocky Mountain Towers is an independent tower company that constructs wireless facilities for all of the major wireless carriers. In this case, it's Verizon Wireless. To further expand on that relationship, essentially, we're like Boeing. We build the airplane, and Southwest flies it. Verizon comes to us and says, build us a tower. We don't want to use our capital to build this infrastructure. We want to use our capital to, put the antennas on the tower and the equipment and operate and do what we do best, which is telecommunications. So they approached us, as we're well known and respected in the industry. I've been doing this for over 32 years. And so as a result of that reputation, they asked us to construct a tower here for them. So that's how we got here today. I have a presentation for you. I don't know if we have it on here, do we? No. Okay. I'll just walk through it. I'm going to go through an overview of the site and project. I'll skip through that pretty quick as she's done an excellent job with that. There was some site plan and elevations. I don't know if we have them on here. If we don't, I have a handout I can give you. And then I'm going to talk to you about why here, which is one of your questions, and how we ruled out the alternative sites, why we landed right where we're at. And then I'll note on the Federal Telecommunications Act of 1996. So I think facts at a glance: on addressed grazing land along Highway 220, north of Pathfinder Reservoir, located in Natrona County, zoned a rural agricultural, it's RAM actually, right? Yep. We're looking for a 300-foot wireless communications facility, which is a lattice tower, not a guide tower, nor is it a monopole. You don't build monopoles at 300 feet. So we're talking about the lattice tower, three-legged lattice tower. The anchor tenant is Verizon. In the packet is enclosed an underlying lease agreement with the landlord. And then in addition, Verizon has a co-location application with us, so we can substantiate that we have a tenant that's going on this now. There is a need to date. As stated, It's in a 60 by 60 enclosed area, fenced and gated, and the access is via existing grazing gate at Highway 220. And we did reach out to YDOT as that was one of the requirements from the planning department to get the application in front of you. We have the subject property here. The location, I agree, is accurate. That's displayed on the screen now. I do have a site plan overview, which I fortunately cannot display up here for you, but it is in your packet and just shows you the 60 by 60 area and the road, how we look to access that. As far as the road that's there, or the access that's there now, there's a gate. We will build a road to the site, and we have strenuous requirements from Verizon Wireless for that road, so that when it's utilized, it's maintained on a regular basis so that they can access their facility. And then there's some more detail. You should have some drawings there. This is designed for 4 carriers. However, I will note that Dish is no longer a viable company, as most of you are aware. So Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, and Dish were considered the 4 major wireless carriers by the FCC. Dish clearly went out of business, sold off its frequencies to the 3 major wireless carriers that are left today. We don't know if we will see a 4th carrier again. In our industry, we would like to, because we don't like to see a triopoly or a duopoly, because you give the customer a better experience, more opportunity for better rates, etc. But we don't know what's going to, we can't predict the future and what the FCC is going to do. So right now, it will be designed for 4. However, whether we ever get 4, we don't know. I can assure you that in our business, when a tower is existing, nobody wants to build a new asset because they're very expensive to build. So the cost of this tower to construct will be about $500,000 plus. That's without the Verizon Wireless equipment that goes on it, which is another $500,000 to $800,000 after they do their install. Therefore, in the industry, what's happened is there's a concentration where the next guy that comes along says, oh, there's a tower there. Why would I want to build another one? I wouldn't want to build another one. If there were a tower existing here, I wouldn't want to put out $500,000 to build a tower for Verizon when one single tenant will not pay back a return on that investment for over 30 years. It's the second tenant that makes it viable. So therefore, the industry within itself has concluded that we wouldn't want to put a tower next to another tower. It's not cost effective. With that being said, these setbacks were not feasible. How do we end up here? I always want to come to you without asking you for a variance. I always want to be compliant. That's the first thing I do. I take a look at a site, I say, find me everything that's compliant for zoning. I reach out to those landowners, I send them a letter, I say, these are compliant. That's easy, I bring it before you, we meet your code, we follow your rules. The only time I go to a site where I need to ask you for a variance is because I couldn't find one that was compliant. So we looked at a 2-mile circle, 2-mile radius around where the site needed to be placed. Unfortunately, this is an area that's pretty remote. We sent out letters via the tax records to the last known place where you tax these folks. And then we have a lot of quite a few databases that we pay to subscribe to find phone numbers for people, to reach out and find these people. And so we send letters out, we send a second letter out, and then we go to the extent of making phone calls, trying to find them, track them down. We could not find any interested landlords within a 2-mile radius. Now, normally a search area isn't always 2 miles. It could be in town, it could be 1/8 of a mile constricted. You have 2 types of sites. You have a coverage site and you have a capacity site. This is clearly a coverage site, highway coverage. Capacity means I already have a site there, but I'm at capacity, so I've got too many people in the area, it's developed, and I need to put another site close to it. This is very much a coverage site. Why that's important? With a coverage site in a rural area like this, I can play around with 2 miles. I got a little bit of wiggle room here, okay? In a capacity site in downtown Cheyenne, let's say, or Casper, we're now looking at a more constricted area of where I can locate to get the coverage that I need. So we had wiggle room. So we looked and looked and looked and thought, well, this is going to be easy. Somebody out there would love to have the coverage. Well, we couldn't find anybody. Eventually, we went and reached beyond what was compliant with your code, and we reached the landlord that we're working with today. And what we got was a woohoo, yes, absolutely, we don't care that much about that property, but we want the coverage out there. So we'll help you in any way we can. We didn't have any landlords that weren't, we had landlords that said, no, I'm not interested, but they weren't opposed to this location or this site, as evidenced by the planning department's comments and those that aren't present here in the room today. Mostly what we got was, we'd love to have coverage out there because there's no coverage along this highway. So that's how we got to this location today. As far as the BLM and the state land, the problem that we have in the industry with BLM and state land is that it takes, let me know if I'm talking too fast, I'm trying not to keep you here all night. It's a government agency. It's going to take me years to get through. And by then, Verizon's going to cancel their budget. The site's going to go away and maybe it'll come back in 10 years. Okay, so my goal or objective, I'm sorry, what?
I just got a question.
Yes.
This is a pretty narrow site, but it does get wider on the right side or east side. And it looks like it goes uphill, so I would think any place in this parcel would work for your tower.
Not for the landlord.
Not-
They dictated the location.
That's why we're.
That's why we're here. That was the highest and best use for them to put it over here in this corner. So maybe they have future plans or something for this property, but whatever that may be, they dictated the location.
I wondered why you had it there.
Yeah.
Because it looks like you can put it off to the side and.
Honestly, anywhere on this property works for us. So in order to meet your requirements under your code, we needed to use breakpoint technology. It's something that we're commonly using in the industry today within about the last 10 years. And what this means is that the tower is designed to have a weak point so that if it were going to break, which we've not had the experience of having that happen, it's very rare. We've had them burn frequently, but not break. With that being said, just for an added safety measure, they build in a slightly weaker point so that if it were going to break, it's going to break at that point. What most people don't know is all towers have a break point. They're all made that way, okay? All we've done is change where we made that break point. So all towers have a weak point so that they'll fall at a certain place. We change that weak point, and that's called breakpoint technology. And with that, we got a certified engineer, and the tower company that will manufacture this tower, which is Sabre, basically put their name on the line or their liability on the line by giving us that letter. So they're basically saying, we're authorizing that this is what will occur, and so they're putting their name behind that. They don't like to do that unless they're certain that they're not going to be sued.
That is, that it's gonna break off at 100 feet.
It's going to
Right.
break, yes, it's going to topple right there. Yeah. The other thing that I like about this site is we always try to locate a telecommunications facility in the least obtrusive area, right? Or least intrusive. And with that being said, state land nearby, there's no homes going in there, no subdivisions going in there, no homes nearby here. Your standards are, as stated by your staff, very they're very difficult. So in most cases, we have sites where we would never be able to meet a 2-to-1 or a 110-foot setback, and so you would never get a tower, or you'd never get the height. The reason we want the height in this case and need the height is twofold. One, you're trying to cover as much of that expanse along that highway as you can. Two, the site that is adjacent to this site, the next site down the road, which we'll get to in a minute, is 7.5 miles away. So we need to be able to communicate with that site, so there's not a gap in coverage. There's three kinds of coverage. There's on-street, in-car, in-building, okay? What you have here today is you have maybe minimal, maybe a bar, maybe nothing. You might hold it if you're out of your car. If you're in your car, you're not going to hold the signal. If you're in a house, you're not going to hold the signal. So we're trying to get on-street, in-car, and in-building coverage here. That's the goal. Not that there are a lot of homes here. And also, I would clarify something. I believe it's 106 feet, not that it matters much to the north parcel boundary, and 101 feet to the west parcel boundary, to be exact. So I don't think it's exactly 100
From the
feet
center of the tower.
from center of the tower. Oh, let me make that clear. Yeah, from the center of the tower. And there's a depiction in your, if they've given you the drawings. Normally I have this up and I can point to it, but there's a depiction in the drawings that shows the setbacks that she referred to. And I agree with the other setbacks.
By the way, I could not find the Y dot letter in here.
I assume the property line is, the state is probably, rattlesnake holds that grazing lease,
I do not know the answer to that question. I can find out the answer.
not a fence there, or,
There's nothing there.
so if the tower does fall across it, it's an imaginary.
It's an imaginary line, yeah. Why at this location? Well, we talked about how I got here, but I think we all know you have lack of coverage along Highway 220. Large percentage of drop calls along Highway 220. We know this because of the Verizon engineers, and we also know this because we have an independent engineer that looks at these sites. If in fact there is coverage, Rocky Mountain Towers has no interest in building a tower where we're not going to attract other tenants for the reasons stated earlier. It's not cost effective. So we know there's a lack of service in the area. There's a significant amount of increased network use in the suburban and rural areas of Wyoming. We're seeing that. I will also say that the wireless carriers don't necessarily want to build out so many of these rural areas because of the percentage of population. We call that POPs. They're doing it partially because the FCC is mandating when we sell you this license for this frequency, you must cover a certain percentage of areas that are rural that don't have coverage, because they want to see that coverage across the U.S. So it's not only because the carrier says we need coverage here, which they do. It's also because the FCC says you must meet a certain criteria to have access to these frequencies, use of these frequencies. So we talked about the coverage. We've talked about why we need it here. And then I can't show this to you because it's not on the screen, but Verizon existing cell sites, I will tell you towards the east is, and I'll leave you with a copy of this if you guys need it, or if you have a copy of it, she has it. Towards the east, 7.45 miles away is the nearest site, okay, from this proposed site. The next site down the road towards the west is 44.79 miles. So I'll probably be back here for the next site, and then the next site, and then the next site, so that you have continuous coverage along that highway. And then the next nearest site is to the north, and it's 22.75 miles away. So this is definitely needed. And I would really emphasize for emergency purposes, if nothing else. Just as travelers are going down that highway, they're in the middle of nowhere, to be able to get a call out, I would think would be very important. And then I have some coverage maps here, and I'll just pass them to you. The first one is their as-is coverage, which kind of shows a yellow area and it's all red. There's just no coverage. The second one shows you what's going to happen when we put that coverage in. And the green that comes up here, that's the coverage you're going to get, the coverage objective. And I can leave those with you, or they have okay. So we know that we have a gap in service. We know we're looking for reliable in-car and in-building coverage here, even though we don't have a lot of buildings. And it would increase coverage for motorists needing assistance in remote areas. That's probably the most important thing about this site. Why is it important? 96% of Americans own a cell phone. 57% of American homes rely exclusively on cellular phones. Wyoming has over 60% have cut the cord for their phone in their home, so I don't know if we'll ever have many residences here, so it may not be as applicable, but certainly for the car. And over 84% of 911 emergency calls are made from wireless devices today. With that, I would just simply, I don't need to go through these slides. I think you guys have a pretty good idea what I'm talking about. We know that we have a gap in coverage. And then the Federal Telecom Act of 1996, I'm sure you're all familiar with that. Basically prohibits a government agency from denying an applicant a telecommunications approval based on health. That's not really pertinent here today, but in my world, on a daily basis, it's very pertinent. Because on most hearings, I have a room full of people screaming at me because they think they're going to die from the cell tower emitting radiation, which is simply not a factor. 32 years later, many health studies later, it's not a factor in the industry, but you can never overcome everyone's fear. And if you get one neighbor that's fearful, he gets all the rest of his neighbors worked up that are fearful. And if there's one doubt in their mind, you got everybody worked up. And so that's why I have that in this packet. But it's clearly not relevant here today. There are no homes, no neighbors, and no opposition to the tower. With that being said, I would like to thank the commissioners for your time, and I would ask you to approve the telecommunications facility for the betterment of the community. Do you have any questions?
Right.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious. So that Rattlesnake Grazing Association they have that 40 or 50 acre parcel where we're speaking, but 3 miles east of there, they have 570 acres, same owner. Also, that parcel is 200 feet higher in elevation. So I'm curious if that was an option to use the same owner but a different piece of land, which would have allowed you to stay further away from the highway.
We did reach out to them. I believe they were not interested. And the answer to your question is you're going 3 miles. So you're going out of our RF engineers. I mean, 2 miles is a broad area, okay? The way I say this is you put the bathroom in your home. You don't put it 5 miles away. You need it where you need it, right? And we've been very broad here within a 2 mile radius. That's a huge search area. That's rare. It's just because we're so rural out here. So you're getting a little bit too far away. We're pushing it with 2 miles. So I'm very confident in what I'm telling you today is we have exhausted every possible place we were open to and available to locate in the middle of any of these large parcels. And we simply did not have an interest. So the answer to your question is 3 miles would be pushing it, but I also know that we sent a letter to them and we got nothing back. I think for a lot of these people, maybe it's a bigger nuisance to them than it's worth. And we had another site approved here in Casper a few years back, and the oil fields were next to the property. And we reached out to them a good 20 times. They wouldn't even get back to us.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
And it's just kind of a general deal. Why would Verizon, what's pushing them to put that tower out there in the middle of nowhere?
Two answers to that. One, the FCC.
So do they help pay Verizon for this, or
No.
how does it work?
No, what happens is they go to an auction and they bid on frequencies. So they'll have a frequency that goes up for auction, and then the carriers will go to the table and they'll bid on that frequency because those frequencies are very valuable, and then often they go in the billions, not the millions. And so when they get that, the FCC says, okay, but we have a lot of land out there in this country and highways that are rural that don't have coverage. So as a result of getting the right to use this, you'll use it in the cities, et cetera, in the more populated areas where you're going to make more money because more people are going to use that phone there. You have to meet a certain requirement. And with that certain requirement, you have to cover so much of this rural type of property, type of land.
Okay.
So that's answer number one.
So
Answer
to get the money from like populated areas, you also have to
Serve
cover
under.
unpopulated areas.
That's right.
Okay.
And I think that's a good thing because, in my opinion, there's places you go and you travel. I've been all over this country building cell towers for 32 years, and there are places I have gone where I have no coverage for, well, we went out to Deadwood. My husband and I like to go to Deadwood every year for our anniversary, and there's hours and hours and hours upon hours where there's no coverage. If an emergency happened or something happened, we have no way to get out. Zero.
Makes sense that it's good for emergencies, but I was just curious, why would somebody be compelled to go spend over $1 million out in the middle of nowhere? So
Yeah.
you've answered my question. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right, is there any discussion here amongst the commission? If not, we move into public hearing. Seeing none. This is to call into order public hearing for consideration of VC 25-03 Rattlesnake Bend Tower, as we've been discussing. What does VC stand for? Variance? What is C? VC. Who knows what it is, huh? So it's for a variance. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the application, would you come forward, please?
I personally would like to support this project for the reasons I just mentioned, and I think primarily for safety reasons along this highway.
Thank you very much.
Jason, her husband, I live at the same address as she does. I speak in favor of it also. Sorry, I got a little cold. But for emergency services, you got a lot of rural areas out there. And like she said, it's hard to find coverage. You got a lot of snow and stuff too. So it's a valuable asset to the community in general to have cell coverage and expand cell coverage to these areas.
Thank you very much. I hope you feel better. All right, anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor of? Seeing none, anyone in the audience wishing to speak in opposition to the application, would you please come forward? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing for VC 25-03. Discussion amongst the commissioners. Yes.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, that was what the applicant stated, is that the property owner dictated where that tower was going to be located. Yeah, you can do it, but this is where it's going to be.
Yes.
I guess I'd like a little bit of clarification. In a couple of months, they would need this variance because the new regulations are less stringent.
Actually, Mr. Chairman,
I don't want to beat this dog to death, but I did look at this whiteout deal and it says it's okay for access. So it's a little hard for me to believe that you could go put a 300-foot tower if that property owner had said, no, we want that closer to the highway. Whiteout, I'm sure, would have some kind of, they wouldn't stand for that. So again, what I read was says, yeah, you can have access to the site, but nobody said anything about the tower being too tall or a certain uh, fall radius or anything like that. You may.
We do quite a bit in Wyoming, and YDOT has always been more than agreeable. Actually, it's difficult to get them to respond, but when you can get them to respond, they've been excellent. So this isn't the first time we've had this situation in the state of Wyoming. We've never had a problem with them. Your requirement to set back 600 feet is the most stringent that I've seen. Okay, and I do work all over this country. I shouldn't say anywhere, but I would say in recent memory, a 2-to-1 setback. That tower comes down, it's going nowhere near that road.
Where'd 2-to-1 come from? We've always used 110%. What's that?
But it's 2-to-1 from the road, right? 600 feet?
Sorry. Sean Gustafson, ECS Engineers. I've had several conversations with Brooke over the past couple of years on cell towers. And YDOT's general criteria is a 1-to-1 from their roadway, not necessarily their right-of-way, but from their roadway itself.
Okay.
But they also will evaluate, as been explained, the breakpoint technology and the standards to which these are designed. Otherwise, we'd never have a cell tower in town.
Sure.
But they will evaluate that on an engineering basis and consider those towers. And she does state in there that they do not have any concerns with this tower. So Brooke is the district traffic engineer for YDOT here, District 2.
She's Mark Williams.
Yes, she
Was-
took over for Mark Owens.
Really,
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Mark retired.
Yep, Mark, well, no, he didn't. He's maintenance engineer now.
He's our district engineer, Mark A.N. retired.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
A little off the.
We not only meet the 1-to-1 because we're over 400 feet, but we also, with the breakpoint technology, have compensated once again from the highway.
Okay. Thank you. Any further discussion? Chad? do you
And
have
just
something?
a clarification, I'm gonna mess this up, but we heard from at the very beginning that there's some special consideration given because they are using breakpoint technology. And so that there is something that the commissioners can give, based on that, or based on having, an engineer, certify that this is breakpoint technology, et cetera. This is kind of a standard thing that's been done. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, yes, that's correct. I could read that sentence if you want again.
Would you mind springing?
Yes, as the BOCC may grant a variance from this setback requirement if the applicant can provide structural drawings and plans signed by a licensed engineer in the state of Wyoming that certifies the use of breakpoint technology and/or that if the tower collapses, relief from the standard setback requirements would not pose a threat to health and safety of adjacent property owners.
All the time I've been sitting here, I think this is the second one of those that I recall. And I think we approved the last one, so this is not new ground.
So, Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, the only real boundary we're concerned about is the south one. Is that kind of right? I mean, everything else around it is state land. There's nothing out there. The only concern is if the tower blows over, is it gonna hit the road? Is that kind of right?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, if the tower blows over and the breakpoint technology does not work, it will not land in the road because it is not tall enough to hit the road. This is 400, I believe it's 416 feet from the property line and even further from the road, and the tower is only 300 feet tall.
Gotcha.
So even
Thank
if that doesn't work, it's not going to touch the road.
Maybe you mentioned this, but to the north and to the west, who owns that property?
That's state and BLM.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? If not, staff would entertain a motion for consideration of the variance request.
Mr. Chairman, considering all relevant factors including but not limited to those set forth in the 2022 zoning resolution of Natrona County, I find that the variance meets the general standards required. On that basis, I move to approve BC 25-03 with all staff findings of fact incorporated by ordinance.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any more questions? Any further discussion? By the way, that was very well done on the explanation of all the details that hoops you've jumped through to bring what we have here tonight. Huh? Are you from Reno? Is that what I saw? Okay. Ah, wow. Okay. Ah, interesting. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Move on to the question. All those in favor of the motion presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, it will be the recommendation of this Planning and Zoning Commission to the Board of County Commissioners that your application be approved. And their meeting is December, I'm assuming? Okay. It's my understanding that Tobin edition number 2 is not even on the agenda. We don't have to table it or anything. We just skip right over it. And the last thing on the regular agenda is TA 25-01. That's amendments to the 2022 zoning resolution. Voting on the proposed amendments presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission on October 14th, 2025. Madam Chairman, or Madam Director, may we have a report, please?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, the amendments have been online on our website since September 30th for public comment. It's a 45-day public comment period. It's been about 48 days until today. That's why we moved it to this week with a holiday of Veterans Day last week instead of moving it to Wednesday of last week. We wanted to move it to this week, so thank you all for changing your schedules for that. The document, like I said, it's been on the website. We have received no comments from the public whatsoever. We presented the list of changes to you at the October meeting, got feedback from you all. We presented twice to the BOCC. They did have a point of contention, as we discussed at the October meeting, on the industrial siding. So we did clarify that language, basically took out some requirements, but made it not necessarily more vague, but just made sure that it was addressed that projects do have to go to the Industrial Siting Council. That wasn't really addressed. It's more understood in the industry because it's a state requirement, but we wanted to make sure that we addressed that in our regulations. Just wanted to clarify everything. I have started a list of things that need attention since putting this out as public comment. Things that aren't necessarily detrimental to the document, but things that we do want to address in the future. This is going to be considered somewhat of a fluid document, but something that maybe 6 months from now, we come back and we say, okay, we've got these page of changes because we've been working with this document, and maybe we've had residents come in that, we have this issue or we have that issue. As we discussed earlier with roads, maybe there's something that we find that we're like, oh, that needs to be addressed, that we haven't thought about. One of the things that, prompted that in the first place was adding the commercial storage regarding RV and boat storage that wasn't addressed at all. So that's one of those things, is it allowed or is it not? Because it doesn't say. So little things like that. We've already started a list of things. It's a small list, very small list. I think there's only like 2 or 3 items on there, but it's stuff that we want to make sure that we clarify for the residents, because we'd like for them to be able to read it and not have to get a lawyer to decide, decipher what it is. We love Ashley and everything. We love meeting with her, but we take up a lot of her time sometimes. So I think she would appreciate it as well. Like I said, we had no comments whatsoever. We've been working with the BOCC, mostly Dave North because he's our liaison, but they've approved the last comments that they had and decided they did not want me to come back to their last work session. So I think they're all right with it as well. If you guys approve it tonight, it will go to the BOCC on December 2nd, and then it will be implemented if they approve it. I don't have a presentation for it because I didn't see any reason for it after our last discussion.
All right, any comments, questions for staff on the zoning resolution amendments?
I just had one question on the Industrial Siting Commission. That, you mentioned it already, I know, but it did get resolved, so it's, if I remember right, we don't have to approve it first. Or wait, we do want to approve it first before it goes to the Industrial Siting Commission, is that correct?
Correct. So the language that was changed is, one, it says federal, state, and local requirements. Nothing in these regulations is intended to preempt other applicable state and federal laws that are regulations. All WEX projects, so WECS projects, which it explains what that is in another section previous to this. Project facilities shall be constructed to meet and be maintained in compliance with federal, state, and county requirements, including all Wyoming Industrial Siting Council requirements if applicable. And then the application process also says it is recommended that all applications follow the general application process as listed in 5.03 general application procedures, all applications. We want to make it clear on the application process. We do have an entire big section that actually details out the entire application process from pre-application all the way through. So I wanted to make sure it was clear that that'll be done.
Gentlemen have anything? So we don't have a script for this, but I'm assuming what you would like to have from us is a motion and a second and approval to approve the amendments as presented on October 14th,
Correct.
correct? So there's been no changes since then. No comments received, no changes. We're good. All right.
Or per the
That have not been changed since, correct?
correct.
Okay. We have a motion.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? That was a lot of stuff. I mean,
It's only 10 pages worth of changes.
yeah, what were the 200 different items? How many were there?
Count the items, there were like 10 pages though.
All right.
Made sure it was listed. I wanted to make sure every last thing was listed.
So we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion on this body recommending to the BOCC that they approve the zoning amendments as submitted? All right, call the question. All in favor of approving the zoning amendments signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We have unanimous sentiment from this board for approval.
Thank you all.
So I don't see anyone else in the audience. Public comment? Anything from staff we need to be aware of?
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay, so our next meeting as I see is December 9th. I will be out of town. I mentioned to Vice Chairman McNutt that he's going to have to run the show that day because I'm going to be out of pocket. Oh, you'll do great. Don't practice
Mr.
much.
Chairman and Commissioners, will the others be here so we know we have a quorum?
December 9th?
I'm going to visit my 90-year-old mother, so I think I better go do that.
School board meeting the day before, so.
All you do is go to meetings. All right, with nothing else, anything from anyone else? I read 7:26 on my watch. Is there a motion for
I'd make a motion to.
adjourn? We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?